Tonight, in Sacramento, the very capital of California, the state that writes the nation's most extensive housing legislation, entire boulevards have turned into rolling neighborhoods. RVs line the streets for miles, shifting every 72 hours in a desperate, exhausting attempt to stay legal. Teachers, state workers, families with full-time jobs. More than 8,000 people now live in vehicles across the county, a devastating triple increase from just 4 years ago. This is the city that drafts the state's housing laws, yet utterly fails to apply its own expertise. What is collapsing here isn't just basic affordability. It is the fundamental credibility of California's policy establishment. The irony is stark. The economic reality is explained by a single number, the Sacramento equation. In 2019, the median rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Sacramento County was $1,200 monthly. Today, that same apartment costs $2,400. That is a 100% increase in 6 years, a doubling of housing costs. That happened while wages grew, but only approximately 18% over the same period. This collapse was catalyzed by the Bay Area exodus, when technology companies announced permanent remote work policies during the pandemic. Thousands of hiring San Francisco and San Jose residents realized they could keep their six-figure salaries while escaping $7,000 rents. They looked inland and found Sacramento, a city 90 minutes away, with housing costs roughly half what they were paying. These newcomers arrived with cash offers and substantial down payments, instantly competing for homes that had previously been accessible to local buyers. Earning median Sacramento wages, housing prices surged 38% in 18 months. Landlords responded by raising rents accordingly, assuming new tenants could afford what Bay Area refugees were paying. But most Sacramento residents are not remote tech workers banking San Francisco salaries. The average wage for workers in retail sits at $19.50 hourly. Healthcare support staff earn around $21 per hour before taxes. The RV calculation became obvious and immediate to thousands of people simultaneously. People downtown, I know a lot of people who don't normally come downtown, don't feel safe down here. They don't, they don't want to come here if they don't have to, because they don't want to see these people down here, and they don't feel safe around them. A used travel trailer costs between $8,000 and $15,000. That cost, combined with the one-time nature of the purchase, suddenly became rational compared to the recurring, impossible cost of rent, which required a massive, unattainable upfront deposit. Working people made the rational choice for survival. They bought recreational vehicles, not because they wanted to live in them, but because the alternative was immediate, total homelessness. They parked initially in neighborhoods they knew, near the jobs they worked and the schools their children attended. They assumed this arrangement would be temporary. The speed of Sacramento's collapse distinguishes it from older California housing crises. It went from affordable to impossible in roughly 3 years, leaving no time for systems to adapt, for services to scale, or for policies to evolve. Sacramento built this crisis through a toxic combination of under-construction, wage stagnation, and the unintended, deadly consequences of the Bay Area's success. Understanding what happened matters less than understanding what is happening right now on the streets, where 8,000 people are trying to survive in vehicles never designed for permanent habitation. Number of homeless people in downtown Sacramento have decreased 40%. 40%. Sacramento's ZV crisis concentrates in specific corridors that reveal precisely how the city manages visible poverty and where it chooses to tolerate what it cannot solve. These are not random parking areas, but deliberate concentration shaped by enforcement, access to services, and the few places where people can park for 72 hours without immediate citation. The corridors of exile. Northgate Boulevard holds the county's densest RV population, approximately 1,200 vehicles along a 4-mile stretch, clustering near closed businesses and a library offering restrooms, Wi-Fi, and heat relief, that critical infrastructure the city fails to provide elsewhere. Del Paso Boulevard forms the city's longest RV corridor, about 7 miles. used by roughly 800 vehicles that shift locations relentlessly to meet parking limits. Florin Road holds about 600 RVs, drawing working families employed in nearby warehouses and retail, desperately balancing jobs and children's schooling while relying on nearby service providers for assistance. West Sacramento, across the river, has become the overflow zone, with around 400 vehicles in industrial areas near the port, where fewer residents mean fewer complaints. American River Parkway. This 23-mile park and trail network shelters around 500 vehicles. Once stable, it now faces strict, aggressive crackdowns over environmental and fire concerns. Since 2023, the city has spent over $3 million clearing sites without offering any alternative parking or housing. These corridors illustrate how Sacramento's RV geography emerged from necessity, enforcement patterns, and proximity to work and services, revealing a system driven by passive tolerance rather than proactive planning. Living in the machine, the environmental toll. The environmental reality of long-term vehicle dwelling in Sacramento is brutal. The Central Valley environment presents profound dangers. Winter means temperatures inside the trailer often drop to 40 overnight, cold enough that condensation coats the windows and mold grows in corners. Summer brings temperatures that regularly exceed 110 F. And inside a metal recreational vehicle without air conditioning for adequate ventilation, interior temperatures approach a lethal 130 F by mid-afternoon. The maintenance costs of full-time RV living consume budgets with relentless efficiency. These vehicles were designed for recreational use, not permanent habitation, generating constant wear on every system. Water pumps fail, generators require constant service, and propane systems develop leaks from heating and cooling demands. The health implications manifest in ways both obvious and subtle. Mold grows in every RV because of condensation. Carbon monoxide from generators and propane appliances poses a constant, deadly danger in poorly ventilated spaces. The stress of moving every 72 hours, of never fully relaxing because police might knock at 3 a.m., and of constantly watching for enforcement creates physical health consequences that show up in blood pressure, sleep disorders, and exacerbated chronic conditions. Sacramento's vehicle dwellers are not living in recreational vehicles because they failed to plan or made poor choices. They're living in vehicles because the city's housing costs made it mathematically impossible to do anything else while maintaining employment, and because once you are in a vehicle, every system from the mechanical to the municipal seems designed to keep you there, rather than help you escape. Sacramento's strategy toward vehicle homelessness rests on a fundamentally flawed idea. Make life in vehicles difficult enough, and people will somehow afford housing they currently cannot. This is domino number 4. The enforcement trap and the theater of control. The 72-hour loop. The city's 72-hour parking rule serves as the primary, brutal mechanism for displacing people living in RVs. Enforcement operates through neighborhood complaints, and parking officers issue citations, $75 for first offenses and up to $250 for repeat violations. The cycle forces constant movement, utterly destroying stability for families, workers, and those trying to access services. For people living paycheck to paycheck, fines are crushing. A $75 ticket equals about 4 hours of work for someone earning $19 hourly. Multiple citations quickly snowball into hundreds or thousands of dollars in debt, leading to warrants or suspended registration. The American River Parkway became the centerpiece of aggressive enforcement in 2023, justified by environmental and safety concerns. These operations followed a set pattern: 72-hour notices, coordinated police and towing actions, and costly cleanups. Each sweep cost between $45,000 and $120,000. Over 18 months, 11 parkway clearances displaced about 500 vehicles at a cost of more than $3.2 million. Without housing a single person, citywide, Sacramento spent roughly $8.7 million last year on vehicle homelessness enforcement, affecting more than 8,000 people and helping none. Enforcement, in the end, is an expensive performance of control, punishing survival rather than solving homelessness. The 5-stage descent into total loss. Sacramento's vehicle homelessness crisis follows a predictable 5-stage descent, a sequence of economic shocks and systemic failures that converts working residents into vehicle dwellers, then traps them in vehicles unable to escape back into permanent housing. The rent shock. Stage 1. The stabilizing rent hike hits first. Your lease renewal notice arrives announcing a jump from $1,400 monthly to $2,100 to $700 jump that consumes your entire food budget, car payment, and most utilities budget combined. The RV calculation. Stage 2. The RV calculation becomes your only realistic option. You spend your final savings $6,500 on a down payment for a used travel trailer. You move out of your apartment and into the trailer. The nomadic trap. Stage 3. The trap snaps closed within the first month. You receive your first $75 citation for violating the 72-hour parking ordinance. You begin the constant rotation. The constant motion means you cannot establish residency anywhere for legal purposes. Your children start missing school days. Your employer starts questioning your reliability. The system has made you administratively invisible while actively tracking your physical location. The breakdown point. Stage 4. Mechanical failure arrives with inevitability. Your freshwater pump fails, a $300 repair you cannot afford. Your trailer's axle bearings start grinding, a necessary $800 repair you absolutely don't have. You're still working, but every dollar goes to immediate survival. The final fall. Stage 5. Your trailer breaks down completely. You cannot afford the repair. Within days, you receive a citation for an inoperable vehicle on public property. The citation becomes a tow order. You wake up one morning to a tow truck backing up to your home. The impound fee is $1,300. Within 10 days, you're left standing on the sidewalk watching your home disappear down the street with $217 in your bank account. This is how Sacramento converts working residents into vehicle dwellers, then converts vehicle dwellers into street homeless. Without intervention at some point in the cascade, the descent continues until people end up with absolutely nothing. The most profound moral and fiscal failure of Sacramento's leadership is the choice to fund expensive, futile enforcement while actively denying funding for solutions that demonstrably work. This is domino number 3, the fiscal absurdity of the status quo. The total annual enforcement cost of $8.7 million is money spent on moving problems around without solving anything. The true cost of impoundment, the final fall, costs the city and the person everything. The harsh consequence is impoundment. When violations pile up, the city contracts private towing companies charging $400 to $800 per tow, plus $90 to $125 daily for storage. After 10 days, the fees make reclamation impossible. The city uses its budget to subsidize the destruction of its own residents' shelter. The case for investment. The Safe Ground pilot. What actually works? Sacramento operates a tiny pilot program called Safe Ground, providing legal overnight parking for approximately 40 recreational vehicles at any given time. The program offers the 4 desperately needed necessities: legal permission to remain stationary, access to portable toilets and hand-washing stations, security presence overnight, and twice-weekly case management. Safe Ground costs the city roughly $168,000 annually to operate, working out to approximately $200 per vehicle space. The success rate tells you everything about whether this model works. 73% of Safe Ground participants transition into permanent housing within 18 months of enrollment. The case of the Ramirez family, who used Safe Ground and after 2 years of constant movement, proves the model's effectiveness. Stability allowed their children to maintain consistent school attendance and allowed David to work overtime shifts without worry. Their case manager helped them address accumulated citations and connected them with a rental assistance program for a 2-bedroom apartment. Safe Ground proves the model works, but it serves less than 0.5% of the population needing these services. The national comparison and fiscal responsibility. Eugene, Oregon's smaller scale model, a city roughly one-third Sacramento's size, operates a network of safe parking sites serving approximately 250 vehicles simultaneously. The Eugene model includes on-site services like showers, laundry, and daily case management. The program costs Eugene approximately $1.2 million annually and maintains an 81% housing placement rate within 12 months. The funding discrepancy: the costs break down to approximately $200 per vehicle annually for comprehensive safe parking with full services. Multiply that by 1,500 vehicles, and Sacramento could serve a substantial portion of the vehicle-dwelling population for $3 million per year, less than the city currently spends on enforcement while actually housing people. The city has the resources: county-owned land, non-profit expertise. The models are proven. The only missing element is the political will to stop funding failure and start funding solutions. Sacramento stands at a critical decision point that reveals everything about California's values and priorities. The path forward demands an immediate pivot from punitive enforcement to scaled infrastructure investment, policy changes that cost nothing. Some of the most impactful solutions don't require new funding at all. They just require changing regulations that actively make the problem worse. Eliminate the 72-hour rule for anyone enrolled in case management or actively working with service providers toward permanent housing. This stops the debilitating nomadic trap. Designate specific zones. Officially designate specific industrial and commercial zones as legal overnight parking areas for recreational vehicles. Utilize county and state-owned parking lots that sit empty from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Install basic public infrastructure. Install public infrastructure that acknowledges reality, rather than pretending 8,000 vehicle dwellers don't exist. Water filling stations, waste dump stations for RV holding tanks, and additional public restrooms that operate beyond standard business hours. Reform zoning laws to permit safe parking lots in commercial and industrial zones, allowing non-profits to help without risking immediate violations. The infrastructure solutions Sacramento needs don't require new resources. They just require reallocation of existing assets. Converting even 5% of the county's 600 acres of vacant land into safe parking facilities would provide legal parking for approximately 1,500 recreational vehicles. The reckoning and the choice. The irony is stark. California's capital, home to the agencies that guide state homelessness policy, refuses to apply its own expertise. The political obstacles preventing these solutions have nothing to do with cost or feasibility, and everything to do with visibility and voter discomfort. Sacramento's choice isn't between expensive solutions and cheap enforcement. It's between costly programs that work and even costlier ones that fail. The city spends about $8.7 million annually on enforcement. The House is no one money. That could instead fund safe parking programs, providing security, sanitation, case management, and real pathways to permanent housing. If Sacramento, California's capital with unmatched resources, cannot address vehicle homelessness, the failure reflects not capacity, but priorities. It signals a belief that housing is a privilege for those who can afford it, rather than a necessity for those who keep the economy running. The crisis is solvable. Their safe ground pilot shows that when stability and services are provided, nearly 73% of participants move into permanent housing. Cities like Eugene prove that comprehensive safe parking networks can succeed. The burgeoning crisis of recreational vehicle (RV) homelessness in Sacramento is far more than a mere statistical anomaly. It's a rapidly intensifying emergency demanding immediate and comprehensive action. Each passing week witnesses a growing number of individuals and families forced to seek refuge within the cramped confines of RVs, ensnared in a complex web of economic hardship, dwindling affordable housing options, and systemic failures. The data paints a grim picture. If the current trajectory remains unchecked, Sacramento could be grappling with a staggering population of approximately 10,000 individuals relegated to living in recreational vehicles. by late 2026. This isn't speculative fear-mongering. It's a stark projection meticulously extrapolated from existing growth patterns, a looming reality casting a long shadow over the city's future. To effectively avert this looming catastrophe, Sacramento's leadership must demonstrate courage and foresight by implementing decisive and immediate interventions. The first critical step involves dismantling the counterproductive and inherently cruel 72-hour rule, as it applies to those diligently participating in service programs designed to lift them out of homelessness. This draconian policy forces vulnerable individuals and families into a perpetual state of displacement, a Sisyphean struggle that actively disrupts their access to life-saving resources and sabotages their progress towards achieving stable, permanent housing. Instead, the city must prioritize the establishment of legally sanctioned, well-maintained parking zones. These designated areas would serve as safe havens, providing RV residents with access to essential services, sanitation facilities, comprehensive health care, and dedicated case management without the constant, debilitating fear of eviction and displacement. Imagine the peace of mind knowing you have a safe place to park, access to clean water and restaurants, and a dedicated advocate helping you navigate the complex path towards self-sufficiency. Beyond simply providing a safe place to park, a significant and strategic reallocation of existing resources is paramount. A minimum of half of the current enforcement budget, funds primarily utilized to harass, displace, and penalize RV residents, a strategy that demonstrably exacerbates the problem, should be immediately redirected towards proactive and compassionate housing navigation initiatives. This crucial shift entails a substantial investment in boots-on-the-ground caseworkers, comprehensive outreach programs, and the cultivation of robust partnerships with local nonprofit organizations. These dedicated individuals and organizations are uniquely positioned to connect those living in RVs with available housing opportunities, JOB training programs designed to equip them with marketable skills, mental health services, and a comprehensive suite of other supportive resources essential for long-term stability and self-sufficiency. We must fundamentally shift from a punitive, enforcement-driven approach, which has proven ineffective and morally bankrupt, to a compassionate, solution-oriented model that prioritizes human dignity and lasting change. The time for denial, for burying our heads in the sand and pretending this crisis will magically resolve itself, it's unequivocally over. We can no longer afford to ignore the harsh, unvarnished realities faced by our most vulnerable citizens. Nor can we continue to rely on ineffective band-aid solutions that merely mask the symptoms while allowing the underlying disease to fester. The time for embracing proven, evidence-based strategies that have been rigorously tested and demonstrated to produce tangible results, is now. The same insidious mathematical equation that threatens to unravel the fabric of Sacramento is, unfortunately, already at play in communities across the nation. The relentless rise in the cost of living, coupled with the agonizingly slow growth of wages and a severe, nationwide shortage of affordable housing options, is creating a perfect storm of economic insecurity. This convergence of factors is pushing more and more hardworking Americans into precarious living situations, forcing them to make impossible choices between food, health care, and a roof over their heads. This crisis, unfolding in real time in Sacramento, serves as the final, undeniable, flashing red warning sign. The current housing economy has utterly failed the American worker. The long-cherished promise of a stable home, a cornerstone of the American dream, is rapidly slipping through the fingers of far too many. We must act decisively, we must act with urgency, and we must act with compassion, not just for the sake of Sacramento, but for the very future of our nation, for the preservation of the values we hold dear. The time to act is not tomorrow, it is not next week, it is now.